Hello everyone, No Consequence here, back again with a new video. This is episode 83 in a series which recounts my ongoing Dungeons & Dragons campaign, which is now in its 11th year. So as always, spoiler alert, in this video I will be revealing details found in this adventure module. Also revealed will be ideas taken from this free supplement, which can be downloaded from the Greyhawk Grognard website called D4's Hideous Spiders. Keep in mind, this is not a standalone product. You must also have a copy of D3 Vault of the Drow in order to make full use of it. Moving on, here is the player character roster for the Descent into the Depths campaign. We have 8 characters being controlled by 5 different players. And as a surprise this time, I actually have 2 of the players here on the video with me.
Greetings to all the Borgdog fans.
Hey, Bears here. I kind of feel like Wes Craven doing a DVD commentary on his classics. You know, like The Hills Have Eyes or something, right? Great movie, by the way.
Yep. And as we go through this video, they may be making comments of their own on what's being shown on the screen. Alright, and also here are the animal NPCs currently traveling with the party. And also, just as a reminder, some of the screenshots, like the one on the left here, will be well illuminated, and others, like the one on the right, will be dark. The reason for that is just because some screenshots were taken from the DM's perspective, and the other screenshots are taken from the light level that the players see. Alright, so where we left off last time, the characters were fleeing from the Elder Elemental God Shrine, and they were now trying to make their way to the main shrine dedicated to Loth. Now, based on information given to them by the Mind Flayer Sage, the characters only knew that they needed to search to the northeast, beyond the lands of the Drow noble houses. After traveling for perhaps a couple of miles, the characters stopped in a mushroom forest. They really needed to rest and regain spells, but weren't sure where they might do so safely. They assumed that they would eventually be looked for, and they were also uncertain of where exactly to go to proceed with their quest. Eventually, they decided to have Niobe cast Speak with Plants to try talking to a mushroom to hopefully get useful information from it. When the Speak with Plants idea was suggested, there was a question if the spell would even work with fungi. After consideration, I finally decided that since there was no specific spell for speaking with fungi, then Speak with Plants would work on them. Besides, when the first edition rules were written, fungi were often considered as a type of plant. So in summary, the mushrooms told Niobe that they do not like the Drow because, even though the Drow fertilize and cultivate them, they also harvest the mushrooms for food and other materials.
Now, Gord was worried here because, of course, the Varys had a history of consuming mushrooms, mostly of the psychedelic variety.
Yeah, Varys had to use all his willpower just to not want to smoke these guys.
Back to the harvesting of mushrooms. Back in episode 72, there was a situation in which the characters encountered a Drow work party in which their slaves were actually harvesting mushrooms. So that's just an example of what they were talking about. At any rate, the mushrooms were sympathetic to the character's plight. Even better, the mushrooms can communicate with one another by releasing spores in the air. So they were able to quickly spread word amongst themselves about why the characters were there. Additionally, although the mushrooms can't walk per se, they can slowly pull themselves along through the soft earthen floor. Therefore, the mushrooms agreed to form a tight ring around the characters in order to hide them while they rested. Also, the mushrooms back along the path the characters had followed agreed to churn up the earth to conceal their tracks and also use their spores to help mask the character's scent. And finally, the mushrooms told the characters that the path they are seeking was not too far away. It is a stone road that leads straight to the Lost Shrine.
This is like a dream of Varys being surrounded by a ring of mushrooms.
Well,
It's like
yeah. I mean, one of your many elf road pipe dreams, and it was to Gorbs was very concerned about the spores because he had a particularly strong scent coming from his backpack due to the number of various trophies that he's taken from defeated enemies.
Yeah, I think at some point in the future I'm going to do a special episode. It's nothing but taking an inventory of Gorbadok's backpack.
Yeah, that would be R-rated, I'm sure.
Later on, during the night, while the other characters were sleeping and Gorbadok just happened to be on watch, of course it happened during his shift, a Drow search party did in fact pass close by. It consisted of several Drow riding giant lizards with bugbears using displacer beasts as bloodhounds. However, the help from the mushrooms prevented the search party from seeing or otherwise detecting the characters, and it eventually moved off.
Good thing Elbrack wasn't snoring or anything.
Yeah, like usual.
And this screenshot just shows a zoomed-in view of how close the Drow search party actually came to the characters. Anyway, the next morning, the characters set out again and soon found the stone-paved road which the mushrooms had told them about. Soon, the characters arrived at a rock wall, the outer edges of the so-called Vault of the Drow. The road led to a well-constructed tunnel in the vault's wall. The tunnel wasn't very long, and even from the entrance, the characters could see some kind of structure at the far end. He was strangely reluctant to do so this time around, but Gorbadok finally agreed to use his invisibility ring to scout ahead. He kept wanting assurances from the rest of the party that they would charge in if he encountered any trouble, or if he began causing trouble himself.
Now, you see, I remember the reason for this was some of the issues that we had in going into one of those temples back in the city where Gorbadok, stumbled across some issues that I think awoke at some sort of really horrible creature that ended up chasing us through the streets of the Drow city.
Yep, I do remember that happening. Soon, the tunnel opened up into a cavern containing a stone structure. Up ahead, across a narrow stone bridge, were two Drow females guarding the structure's entrance. Behind them was a closed portcullis with more Drow guards behind it. Gorbadok slowly crept across the bridge, relying on his boots of elven kind to move silently. Finally, Gorbadok arrived at the foot of the steps leading up to the structure. This screenshot is a DM's view, so details are visible that Gorbadok's player could not see at the time. Gorbadok crept up the stairs and then noticed two side doors in addition to the portcullis. Unfortunately, they were heavy stone doors and apparently barred from the inside.
That word portcullis, it just sounds dirty.
Right. And of course, everything Drow is kind of dirty down here.
Using his pumpkin seeds Halloween reward item, Gorbadok quietly placed a pumpkin in front of the west door. I remember at the time. I remember at the time when when this was going on. I remember rolling some kind of a perception check to see if the Drow noticed these pumpkins appearing, but they failed to notice them.
They were probably engaged in some sort of chit chat. Now, I remember seeing this and the way that they were situated in the two doors and then the grate with the more of the guards behind, and seeing this as an opportunity for Gorb to employ maximum violence with the various explosive magical devices that he had.
After placing the first pumpkin, Gorbanak then went over to the east door and placed a second pumpkin in front of it.
Double the fun, double the pleasure.
Gorbanak then drank a potion of speed. Next, he took out his Drow pistol crossbow, pressed it to the back of one of the Drow guards, and pulled the trigger. The Drow failed its saving throw versus the poison and dropped to the ground asleep.
It was a gentlemanly thing to do.
Using his pistol crossbow caused Gorbanak to become visible. Now that they could see that Gorb was causing trouble, the rest of the party began rushing forward.
The problem was they were very far away at that point.
Dirty Gorby, do you feel lucky, punk?
The other Drow guard spun around, but since Gorb was speeded up from the potion, he was able to act first. He pulled the Drow's pistol crossbow from its holster and shot the Drow point blank with it. This Drow too failed its saving throw and dropped to the ground asleep. For his second round of speeded up actions, Gorb deployed his pumpkin vine Halloween reward item and caused the far end to extend deep into the shrine area beyond the porculus.
The one time that Gorbadak is like Mike Tyson. Punch him in the mouth, right, Gorb?
Hit him hard, punch him in the mouth, and don't let up.
The pumpkin vine extended into the shrine area, and Gorb immediately reappeared at the far end of the shrine. Of the vine. Gorbanak next took out a glowing red gem, which he had crotched upon its discovery back in the fire giant lair. He threw it back towards the guards at the porculus, and it shattered, causing 3 fire salamanders to appear. What's more, Gorbanak realized that he had telepathic control over them, and so he ordered them to attack the apparent Drow leader of the guards.
I had that thing in my shorts for ages. I was just waiting for the right opportunity. Of course, I had a feeling it was chafing horribly.
I know we talked about this offline, but man, you gotta do some more crotching, man. Crotching in the porculus.
Well, I have the space available now, so I can get back to that.
Alright, well, back in the tunnel, the rest of the party continued running through the tunnel leading to the Lost Shrine. The salamander scored critical hits against the Drow leader, and she tried to flee through a side door.
Now, this is where I remember that I started referring to the 3 salamanders as Larry, Curly, and Moe. I can't remember which one was which, but I do remember giving those names.
Let's see. Oh, yeah. Okay, next, Gorbanak threw a poison dart, which he had purchased from the Zwerfneblin vendor in the refugee sanctuary, and it exploded in a cloud of gas in front of the Drow leader.
Papa Smurfneblin.
The Drow leader was defeated, while the other guards fled through the side doors.
And pushing them for the pumpkins.
And meanwhile, the rest of the party continued running through the tunnel towards the Lost Shrine. Gorbadoc threw another poison gas dart at the Drow fleeing west and ordered 2 of the salamanders to attack the Drow to the east.
Tally ho, my little vixens!
The Drow that fled west began pounding on doors at the far end of the room and shouting for help as the salamander closed in on him. The rest of the party finally began approaching the temple complex. Since Thorol wears no armor, he moves the fastest and got there first.
Of course, he's the high stepper.
And just in time to get caught in the explosions.
He's also the first one out when things get rough.
Gorbadoc had seen the other characters arriving, so he detonated the pumpkin sitting against the east entrance door. The resulting explosion blew the door open, while he followed the salamanders into the same room. In the western room, the salamander began attacking the Drow guard who had fled there. Gorbadoc threw another flaming jack-o'-lantern pumpkin seed at the group of Drow at the far end of this room. He knew that the salamanders would not be harmed by the resulting fireball effect. The flaming jack-o'-lantern then exploded amongst the Drow.
Just another way of saying I love you.
The 2 Drow guards were killed by the explosion, but the leader survived.
Horribly disfigured, I hope.
No doubt.
Not for long.
The salamanders continued to fight the Drow in both rooms, while some obvious Drow clerics appeared in the western room. At the moment, though, none of the characters could actually see them. The screenshot is a DM's view. Gorbadoc might have been able to partially see what was going on, but not everything. Back outside at the entrance, the last of the characters finally began crossing the stone bridge and arriving at the temple complex entrance.
More excitement next week. Same Gorb chime, same Gorb channel.
Alright, well that's all I have for now. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. If you can, please leave a comment. Let me know what you think. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. If you know of a good place, please share the video. And anything you can do to help support the channel is appreciated. Thanks again. Bye for now.
And if you didn't like it, it's Gorb's fault.
True.